A big part of addressing conflicts of interest in the best interest of the client is starting with disclosure. Disclosing those conflicts to the client in a clear and timely manner so that they are aware of the conflicts and can make more informed decisions about their advisor, their dealer firm, investment choices, and ongoing performance with that disclosed information in mind. Now, a conflict of interest still needs to be addressed, either with controls in place or avoided altogether. Disclosure alone is not sufficient, since in most cases it does not mitigate the risks related to a particular conflict. But it's a start. So, if there are conflicts of interest that exist between the firm and the client, or anyone representing the firm, like an advisor and the client, and that information could affect the client's decisions or choices, or if a reasonable client would expect to be informed about such a conflict, the firm must disclose those conflicts to the client. Dealer firms have an obligation to disclose those conflicts to clients in writing, in a letter, or in a reasonably prominent location on the company's website, for example, which must include the nature of the extent of the conflict, the potential impact and risks it could have on the client, and how the conflict was or will be addressed in the client's best interest. But to the extent that disclosure of conflicts is required, whether disclosure alone is satisfactory or whether avoidance or control measures are required, there are some important points about the way in which disclosures should be made to the client. And the most important of these points is that the disclosure of conflicts must be meaningful to the client. And to make it meaningful, that disclosure must be fulsome in content, prominently displayed, written in a way that is specific and clear for a client to understand using plain language, and it must be disclosed at the appropriate time. In other words, it cannot be a generic disclosure with only partial information that's conveniently hidden in a much larger document or a remote page on the internet, like a partial version of your side of the story written in haiku located in the inner workings of the dark web through a heavily encrypted and password-protected file, or CDAR. So that's the how of disclosing a conflict of interest. But there's also the timing of that disclosure, and it is as fundamental as this. Conflicts of interest, which have already been identified before an investor becomes a client, must be disclosed before that investor opens an account and becomes a client. Or, if a conflict of interest was only just identified and not previously disclosed to clients, it must be disclosed in a timely manner after it was identified. In other words, new clients must be informed of existing material conflicts right away. Any new conflicts of interest must be disclosed to existing clients in a timely manner. And what does timely manner mean? Well, the genuine intention of the rule is to give clients a reasonable amount of time to assess the conflict before making any investment decisions. So a good reference point would be as soon as possible, and definitely before the client makes another trade, if that trade decision could have been impacted by that disclosed information. And while the rules and regulations don't require clients to be constantly reminded of previously disclosed conflicts, clients do need to be aware of any significant changes to previously disclosed conflicts, which should be addressed in the same way as newly identified conflicts of interest. In some cases, it may make sense to remind clients of certain conflicts that were previously disclosed a long time ago, months or years ago, depending on the specific nature of the conflict and current circumstances. What does that mean? It means using your professional judgment. Since every conflict is different and the risks are unique to every client, making it all the more important to be able to evaluate when a reasonable client might benefit from being reminded of that conflict before making any investment decisions. There are no regulatory requirements about reminding clients of previously disclosed conflicts, but there is an expectation that advisors will deal fairly, honestly, and in good faith with clients, which also means using professional judgment to determine the situations where it makes sense to remind clients of previously disclosed conflicts. So, is it appropriate to disclose to the client every possible and conceivable conflict of interest? And the answer is no. Conflicts of interest that should be disclosed to clients are those that may affect the products and services that are specific and relevant to the client. Conflicts that have no bearing or impact on how a reasonable client's decisions are made do not need to be disclosed. In fact, there may be circumstances when it's not appropriate to disclose conflicts, such as conflicts that involve confidential, commercially sensitive, or insider information. In these cases, dealer firms are still obligated to find appropriate ways to address these conflicts in the best interest of their clients. There are also conflicts of interest that universally impact all clients, such as those related to compensation, use of proprietary products, outside business activities and referral arrangements, etc., which can be disclosed in a standalone document that is easily available to clients and prospective clients, like on the dealer's website in an accessible location. The document should clearly disclose relevant and material conflicts, the risks to the clients, and how the conflicts are being addressed in the best interest of the client.